Coronavirus, coronavirus, coronavirus. From every mouth in the world, from every person in the world, a single word that's rolling out, word that is coronavirus. One question that everybody is thinking at present is, when will this coronavirus vaccine will be ready? Now, nobody is talking about how many people affected with coronavirus and how many infected people with coronavirus and how many people recovered. That's not the question now. And everybody was thinking about when the vaccine or the medicine for coronavirus is ready. Every heart in the world, every soul in the world, and seriously hoping and wishing that the medicine will be available very quickly, and they're waiting for a single medicine, they're waiting for one single announcement from any of the country that the coronavirus vaccine is ready. But the question mark is when this coronavirus vaccine will be ready. Human trials will begin imminently. But even if they go well, there are many hurdles before global immunization is feasible, especially in coronavirus medicine. And we should understand that this is the most effective and draconian containment strategies has only slowed the spread of respiratory disease, COVID-19, with the World Health Organization finally declaring a pandemic. All eyes have turned to the prospect of vaccine because only a vaccine can prevent from getting sick at this moment. About 35 companies and academic institutions are racing to create such a vaccine, at least 4 of which already have candidates they have been testing in animals. First of this, produced by Boston-based biotech firm Moderna, will enter human trials imminently. We should understand this Boston-based biotech firm Moderna is already testing the vaccine on animals, and they're going to test very soon on human beings. The speed with which we have produced these candidates builds very much on the investments in understanding how to develop a vaccine for the coronavirus, says Richard Hatchett, CEO of Oslo-based non-profit of the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations, CEPI, in short we call it as a CEPI, which is leading efforts to finance and coordinate COVID-19 vaccine development. Coronaviruses have caused 2 other recent epidemics, severe acute respiratory system, severe acute respiratory syndrome in China in 2002 to 2004, and Middle East respiratory syndrome MERS, which started in Saudi Arabia in 2012. In both cases, work began on vaccines that were later shelved when the outbreaks were contained. One company, Maryland-based Novavax, has now repurposed those vaccines for SARS. So one more recent strategy, the one that Novavax is using, for example, construct a recombinant vaccine. Boston company, CureVac, both of which are building COVID-19 vaccines out of messenger RNA. Of 4 founded COVID-19 vaccine projects was heavily skewed towards these more innovative technologies, and last week it announced $4.4 million of partnership funding with Novavax and with the University of Oxford vectored vaccine project. Chemical trials, an essential precursor to regulatory approval, usually take place in 3 phases. The first, involving a few dozen healthy volunteers, tests the vaccine for safety, monitoring for adverse effects. The second, involving several hundred people, usually in part of the world affected by the disease, looks at how effective the vaccine is. And the third does the same in several thousands people, but there's a high level of attrition as experimental vaccines pass through these. If there are good reasons for that, either the candidates are unsafe or they're ineffective, or both. So screening out deaths is essential. So which is why clinical trial can't be skipped or hurried. Approval can be accelerated if regulators have approved similar products before. So the annual flu vaccine, for example, is the product of a well-honed assembly line in which only one or a few modules has to be updated each year. In contrast, SARS-CoV-2 is a novel pathogen in humans, and many of the technologies being used to build vaccines are relatively untested too. So no vaccine made from genetic materials on RNA or DNA has been approved to date. For example, so the COVID-19 vaccine candidates have to be treated as brand new vaccines, and as Zelin says, while there is a push to do things as fast as possible, it's really important not to take shortcuts. An illustration of that is a vaccine that was produced in 1960 against a respiratory syncytial virus, a common virus that causes cold-like symptoms in children. So in clinical trials, the vaccine was found to aggregate and aggravate those symptoms in infants who went on to catch the virus. A similar effect was observed in animals given an early experimental SARS vaccine. So it was better modified to eliminate the problem, but now that it has been repurposed for SARS coronavirus 2, it will need it to be put through essential stringent safety testing to rule out the risk of enhanced disease. So it's for the reason that taking a vaccine candidate all the way to regulatory approval typically takes a decade or more, and why President Trump sowed confusion when at a meeting at the White House on March 2nd, he presented a vaccine to be ready by the elections in November, an impossible deadline. So it's for these reasons that taking a vaccine candidate all the way to regulatory approval typically takes a decade or more. And why President Trump sowed confusion when at a meeting at the White House on March 2nd, he pressed for a vaccine to be ready by the US elections in November, an impossible deadline. Like most vaccinologists, I don't think this vaccine will be ready before 18 months, says Professor of Emerging Infectious Disease at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. So that's already extremely fast, and it assumes there will be no hitches. So in the meantime, there is another potential problem. As soon as the vaccine is approved, it's going to be needed in vast quantities, and many of the organizations in the COVID-19 vaccine race simply don't have the necessary production capacity. Vaccine development is already at risk affair in business terms because a few candidates get anywhere near the clinic. Production facilities tend to be tailored to specific vaccines, and scaling them up when you don't yet know if your product will succeed is not commercially feasible. So CEPI and similar organizations exist to shoulder some of the risk, keeping companies incentivized to develop much needed vaccines. CEPI plans to invest in developing a COVID-19 vaccine and boosting manufacturing company in parallel, and earlier this month it puts out a call for $2 billion to allow it to do so. So virus biology and vaccines technology could be the limiting factors, but politics and economics are far more likely to be